Hello and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel, where we're going to start playing some Geoguessr, as always. My windows where I need them to be. Hey Haku, oh, it was lovely. How you doing? Okay. Oh, well, we can work on the boredom. Gonna start out with a little bit of Geoguessr. Hang on. Playing World. Play some World. Okay, very rural. A lot of places this could be so far. Okay, I mean, this could be North America, it could be Europe, it could even be parts of Argentina. Very hard to say so far. Let's see what these houses look like. Hello, how are you doing, Mask? Okay, not North America. That number plate is too long. Plus, these houses don't look like it. Oh, hold on, what have we got here? Le Grand Coder. Coder. Okay, never heard of this. Yes, definitely France. Someplace rural, which means we're gonna have to deal with French root numbers, which means we're not gonna find this place, probably. We're... Cordaire, okay. Double grand, though. It's not just grand, it's grand. See, Haku, I'm making up for the fact that I didn't see that, you'd asked for French a couple earlier today. We're doing extra French, apparently. Oh, it didn't look like it didn't look artifactual. There was once a breakout at a borstal in, on the Isle of Portland in England, where during the subsequent inquiry they decided that possibly a contributing factor was the fact that they had shown coldits the night before it happened. Okay, on sait pas où on est. Okay, hang on, what have we got? CD de passage, okay. Confirmier, la brousse, la Sidlande. I'm not sure. I think it may be somewhat more recent. But this was, I mean, this is the Isle of Portland. It's in the far south of England. It's like just south of Weymouth. Mostly known for quarries. Portland granite is everywhere. I feel like it was fairly recent. It was in an episode of Mark Steele's in Town. Oh, hang on. C'est quoi ça? Par naturel, Périgord, Limousin. Okay, we can get some truffles. Okay, that's a little bit. That helps a bit. Périgord, Limousin. I've never watched Colditz. I just know it was supposedly a place you weren't supposed to be able to get out of. That would not surprise me at all. Because it is also, you know, a seaport. Or near one, anyway. Périgord, Limousin. C'est où, Périgord? I think it's in the south. But, Limoux, Perpignan. Parc naturel, région des Landes de Gascogne. Haute-Languedoc. Parc national. Jonzac. La Brune. Okay. We are in a parc naturel, which should actually make it easier to find this than it usually is. Okay, I do not think. I feel like Périgord is actually. Oh, here we go. Limousin. Périgord, Limousin. On y est, on y est. Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, right by Limoges. Okay. .3 kilometers outside of Paris or a major city. That's probably one of the best results I've ever had for Geoguessr France. Okay. Mountains. Is that a sign? I can't quite make it out. This could be Patagonia. This could be some parts of Ireland. Hang on, let me see what that was. Brew. Oh, this is Iceland. We're in Iceland. Okay. Hamarsá. Iceland is a weird country. There's like basically no trees there. Takes some getting used to. I'll have to check it out. When was it made? That reminds me, have you seen the movie The Maze? Oh, well, Colditz and Escapes made me think of it. Because The Maze is a movie that came out a few years back. I mean, it's quite recent. About the provisional IRA's escape from Longkesh. Quite good. You know, the whole story of how they managed to psych out the guards. Ah, interesting. I don't think I've ever seen him as anything other than a Doctor Who. Okay, this feels coastal. We're in a coastal area of Iceland, but that doesn't really narrow it to... Oh, wait, there's land on either side. This isn't necessarily coastal. Oh, this might be the big ring road all the way around the country. "107 kilometers. Oh, I wasn't too bad. Right by Djúpivogur. Void. Okay, definitely not Iceland. We got here. Okay, this does not feel like North America anyway. Oh, hang on. Was there a sign there just now? I feel like there might have been. Plumber. Okay, well, it is English. Ward 2 candidate. I can't get in close enough. Okay, English speaking, not North America. There's a lot of plumbing available. Hostel shuttle. This is die Arbeiter von Wien. Okay, wearing suspension, Dikwani. Okay, now I'm thinking South Africa. Dikwani sounds Xhosa or isiZulu. So maybe we're in KwaZulu Natal? Someplace. We'll see. Oh, we're in South Africa. Oh, there's that plumber again. Well, I know where you can find a plumber in... Okay, gambling board of where? I'm guessing it's South Africa. Eastern Cape Gambling Board. There we go. Yep. We not only know we're in South Africa, we know where. Okay, Oostkaapse Gambling Board. Okay, that's northern. Where exactly does Eastern Cape begin, anyway? Eastern Cape. Okay, Oostkaapse Gambling Board. Uh-huh. Storm Severe. It's a fairly green part of Eastern Cape. Ons gaan sê. Ons gaan sien. Fountain Lake Butchery. Hanky. Eberha. Okay, Janssenville. Allemanskraal. Andorp. Craddock. New Bethesda. Okay, I've already... Oh, Fountain Lake. I have a feeling Fountain Lake will require some zooming. Fountain Lake Convenience. So, Fountain Lake Oostkaap. Hakaza Bakes. Okay, we're definitely in a very green area of East Cape, so I'm thinking southern. Although, how far does East Cape go exactly? They really kind of overuse the word Cape in their province names, because this is miles away from the bloody Cape. Qua bene. Fountain Lake. Oh yeah. Hello, Phoenix. Tombe. Lugues weni. Queni. I love EC Zulu. It has wonderful vowels. Well, that's handy if it's got a sign on it. Deghe, Ecciane, Maciona, Oggiana, Pechua. What? E Josueni. Philip's wrist. Okay. Well, wherever this is, there isn't a lot of Afrikaans. I mean, it's all English signs and Bantu names. So I'm not thinking Fountain Lake. Ah, hell. This could take forever. $320 kilometers off. Ntata. Nongombe. Okay. Not too bad, though. For rural South Africa. Okay, that tells me we are someplace European. Parcheggio, viabilità di servizio. Okay, we're in Italy. The sign said Utachihaba was in one. Is that rights? Yeah, fewer letters to remember with rights. Oh, hell, we got a train station here. Palermo. Palermo, Sicilia. Cazzo, stiamo a Palermo. Okay, that's easy. Sicily time. Sette cannoli. Palermo, Franch, Roccella. Palermo, Roccella. La Malfa. Cardillo. Tommaso Natale. Where's Pacific Grove? Terracavallo. Isola delle Femmine. Diciamo pure che troviamo semplicemente a Palermo. .1 kilometers off. Is there anything that you've realized that you feel like sharing, Phoenix? Okay, 5 of 5. We've got North American style post boxes, North American style bin. I had this ridiculous idea for a character. A posh Englishwoman from the 1930s who is convinced that, that assholes are the American equivalent of beefeaters. They're more sort of in the caravans. Okay. Yeah, if you don't know the dimensions, I can see where you could get that. Okay, 919. That's California, isn't it? 919, or am I thinking 818? Ah, North Carolina, okay. Well, it's the same continent. Two girlfriend. Did you grow up where you're currently living? Route 210, 42. Oh, that sucks. Route 42. Oh, okay, 140, 101, Vansborough, Windsor. $158. That's a U.S. highway, so that's useless for our purposes. 74. $194. 274. Okay, we're in the 200s now. $215. Route 42. Mouth of Wilson? That's a great name. Ah, I was just wondering that. Behind that fence on Home Improvement. You never even get to see the mouth of Wilson most of the time. $423 kilometers. Okay. It's a bit off there. View summary. Did the surprise party not go well? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. I also kind of like to be psychologically prepared for social occasions. Like, to know that they're going to happen. Okay. Now comes the time where we roast. Okay, we watched Caleb Maupin explain his remarkable take on no investigation, no right to speak last night. See what he means when he says that that video is not what you think. Is that all it is him saying, I don't know, I don't know, I also don't care, I don't care. People sent me stuff in my inbox and I didn't read it, and now I'm talking about it because I don't know and I don't care, and a cat is a good addition to just about any occasion. Okay, so, well, we saw Confessions of an Environmentalist last time. There's Xander Holt talking about traitors in our government. And then, okay, here's PragerU, and this should be, I have a feeling this will be absurd. An unfiltered point of view from an Oxford graduate and indie rapper. I was thinking of actually, like, putting it to music. Yes, being 13 is already a fairly awkward thing. Well, let's see. If you're an Oxford graduate in the first place, can you really count as indie anything? I feel like being an Oxford graduate is already the least indie thing a person can do. I mean, short of like being an Oxford graduate who has an hour. Yeah, exactly. A la Prince Andrew is a sweaty nonce. I mean, short of actually spending an hour on fucking PragerU talking about your unfiltered viewpoints. And she wasn't into that sort of thing, Phoenix? Okay, did I up the volume? Just make sure I have ad blocked. Yes, it is ad blocked. Good. And full screen vid. Let's see. Aufnahme starten. Just. Yeah, my experience as well is that I was sort of apparently unwittingly out to more people too, quite a few people before I was actually out to myself. Oh, that sucks. Okay. So, Xander balls. Start out with that. Oh, we've also got Caleb Moppet on why he doesn't focus on or say much about LGBT stuff, except when he's like fucking platforming turfs. But let's do Xander balls. Let's start out with that anyway. Maybe we managed to get two of them. I managed to get two whole videos yesterday. I love when I edit these together. I have a fully that sounds like shite hitting the wall that I like to add to his sound effect there. This is my sort of highbrow humor. Oh god, that is like so many different levels of uncomfortable, Phoenix. That has to have been an extremely hard relationship. Because I mean, chances are at that age, she may not have even entirely realized that she was taking that shit out on you. So you're basically sort of in the middle in a situation that isn't even understood by the person who's making it, by any of the people who are making it uncomfortable. Yeah, grimmer than his usual thing. Oh, this is his big announcement that he's got 1 million subs. Well, interesting question there, Haku. I'd say... Oh shit, you can't hear? Well, it is paused. Audio Ausgabe. Ah, shit. Okay, yes, thank you for noticing that. Way I see it on the born gay thing, I mean, I think that the obsession with figuring out how people get that way has a lot to do with the fact that it's like nobody ever looks into, for example, whether somebody was born straight or not. It's just sort of accepted. Whereas when it comes to us, there's always this sort of like, how did they get that way? As far as I'm concerned, I mean, it's like two things. It seems like a lot of people, at the very least, didn't have a, didn't really come to it with any kind of conscious decision. Like, I mean, I certainly didn't. There wasn't really a conscious moment where I said, okay, I'm going to fancy women. And the second is, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter because it's legitimate either way. Okay, we're gonna start this over because I said something very funny that only works if you can actually hear what he's saying.
I want to talk about something that's a little bit grim. Just something that should really make you feel afraid for the state of American politics. And
Yeah, here, this must be when he's announcing that he's got 1 million subs. We do not know of any such allele. And here's the thing, Haku, about the people who are really obsessed with trying to find that allele. Well, the reason they're interested in finding, I'm not saying that this is you. I'm saying the people who are like professionally obsessed with finding like a sexual orientation allele are people who want to eliminate us from the gene pool. It's like, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's like fucked up eugenicists, people like J. Michael Bailey and other assholes. So there's some serious dodgiety down that way potentially. Not saying that. I know. I know. I wasn't saying that's you. I'm saying that. I'm guessing that you've done a unit on genetics in your cellular biology course
the
just
state of the
now,
American people as a
recently.
whole. All of us remember January 6th, the insurrection attempt on the capital of our beloved United States.
Okay, first of all, okay, insurrection attempt. Okay, is a weird one. Like, because it seems like there was the insurrecting happened. There just wasn't a whole lot of it. Although, of course, there is sort of the fact that it was approved by the cops. And I don't know if you can have an insurrection if the cops are on side.
Greatest country in the whole world. It was, of course, a
See, the thing is, with him, he's so completely just a reactionary lib dickhead that you cannot really take as read that he's being funny there. Hey, bonsoir, mon chum. How you doing, Ludlow?
failed insurrection, and yet somehow the American right was able to get away with it. Because that's what it is at the end of the day, right? Just every single time, you know, the right doing some horrific shit and then finding the most insane ways to, you know, separate themselves from that insane shit that inevitably was the result of their actions.
Well, yes, and what that's called is the ruling class is actually kind of okay with a lot of it. I mean, not necessarily to specifically, like, you know, going into the Capitol and fucking around and all that stuff. But they're kind of okay with the whole general far-right reactionary thing. There's a lot of money behind it. I've spent the past, like, week or so, I decided I was going to pull out Maltega, which is this OSINT mind mapping and it's a mind. The front end is it's a mind map a piece of mind mapping software, a very good one, but it has all of these things they call transforms. And what transforms are is it allows you to query all sorts of specialized databases to find out all sorts of information about different entities that you include in your mind map. So all I was doing is going through SourceWatch, which is this great resource from the Center for Media and Democracy, and connecting up all of these right-wing foundations with their major funders and the major things they fund, and connecting right-wing media as well with their funding sources and stuff like that. And one of the things you notice is that the reason there's all this fast shit all over the place is there's money in it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, very true, Mask. And one of the things about things about it as well is a lot of people like who have not taken a genetics course, they actually sort of conflate congenital and genetic. The fact that you can be born with something and it is not strictly genetic, like there isn't an allele that is encoding for the thing you've got. You can have there are all sorts of other factors that can lead you to be born in a particular way. Hey, Haku, I think everybody understands. I mean, I totally get that you're genuinely curious. I was not trying to suggest that was what you were doing at all. I was just telling you that this is a thing, because I figure you probably had not heard that it was a thing. Like, if you look up gay gene, you can be connected to some very fucked up shit. Yeah, well, there's there's having a genetic basis, and then there being a specific allele that specifically codes for it. And those are very different things as well.
And then like all the centrists just keep on telling the left they're crazy for calling a spade a spade. It really is a fun cycle, isn't it? Like just constantly getting DreamWorks faced every single day by liars.
What's this fucking fleshlight he's holding here?
Regardless, though, January 6th happens, and the right has tried to sweep it under the rug, but now enough time has passed that
and the Democrats have tried to sweep it under the rug. But I mean, then again, they're also the right. I don't think this prick considers them to be the right, but they are the right. Because if you look at that inquiry, I occasionally was subjected to live sessions of that congressional inquiry into the 6th of January, and I have to say what was amazing to me. There are actual interesting questions that would tell us a lot about the situation we're in. Things that would be very important to find out. Things that would be very important to shine a really bright light on. And the problem is that, like, for example, the fact that you've got all these cops, all these people who were, part of this attempt to occupy the Capitol, who were cops, like senior police officers in their local areas, Don't insult potatoes. Potatoes are wonderful. Um, I love potatoes. And there's also the fact that the DC Metro PD made it happen. I mean, Phoenix will know this, I'm sure. Phoenix does not need to be told this, and I don't think Mass does either. But Phoenix is right in the area, so I mean, you can't have a protest protest way bigger than that shit on January 6th. That even try to get anywhere near the Capitol end up getting kettled and mass arrested by DC Metro PD, and yet on January 6th the DC Metro Police just basically escorted them right there. And then somebody said, I bet potatoes can understand politics. Potatoes were very well bred by the Mapuche and the Quechua people. I trust potatoes. Yeah, the Capitol Police just let them right through too. And then it turned out at least one member of the Capitol Police was actually in some of their Facebook groups or something like that. Or he was just in some regular Nazi Facebook groups. And then hilariously, somebody in the media did actually raise it with the head of the DC Metro PD within a day or so and said, what's the deal? Why didn't you just mass arrest those people when they tried to get there? And the DC Metro PD chief goes, we don't do mass arrests. And it's like, dude, this is not the time to be launching a stand-up career. Everybody knows you do mass arrests. People who haven't even been to a protest in DC know that mass arrests are a thing that the DC Metro PD are kind of famous for. A neo-Nazi is... Oh, I mean... They do a pretty good line in kettling and mass arresting, though. A neo-Nazi is a latter-day Nazi. It's a Nazi who wasn't around for the original version, but they want to bring it back, kind of.
They're just like, you know what? Fuck it. It's a point of pride. It's a point of pride, and we're gonna lie about how bad it was. It was a peaceful protest of patriots. And one of the people pushing this idea is Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now, before...
Yeah, who is a massive anti-Semite.
Before we watch this speech segment...
on top of everything else.
I want to tell you guys what American politics is like.
Oh god, he's gonna tell us what American politics is like. Shouldn't he go and just ring Vosh to find out first? I mean, I just remember back 20 years ago, reading Zed magazine, and there was, it was one of the WTO protests. What just happened to my chat window? All my chat just disappeared. Chat is back. Okay, thank you. So I was reading Zed magazine, and it was a report back about, one of the WTO summit protests or something like that. And I just remember the headline. It stuck with me because this stuff was new to me at the time. This is the turn of the century. God, it's weird to say that. And it says, another day, another mass arrest. And that stuck with me because at the time I thought that was, I was really new to this stuff. And I thought that was kind of over the top. I mean, mass arrest, that's not something they do here, right? I'd never heard anyone say that. I mean, it was sort of almost blasé about the DC Metro Police mass arresting people in that way, even 20 years ago. So somehow I just assume, I mean, and they declared a riot on the inauguration, the J21 protests. It took no time at all, and that was another mass arrest. Huge numbers of people got arrested that day. I mean, and then got charged with, being in the same city as some people who maybe did some shit.
So I think a lot of people who are American just kind of believe the government is this very rigid, unchangeable thing, right? And no matter how radical somebody comes into politics, left or right, the rock tumbler that is politics will smooth them out into a more establishment politician eventually.
Yeah, and that's not exactly wrong. We see that quite a bit. I mean, if you compare Bernie Sanders before he got into federal politics to Bernie Sanders, it would have been one of those. Yes, it would have been one of the World Bank or IMF ones. One of those summits. There were a few of them back in D.C. back in those days. I mean, if you look at Bernie Sanders before he got into federal politics, when he was still just the Burlington mayor, versus Bernie Sanders after he got into it. I mean, when he went to the Harvard University's Kennedy School of Genocide Apologetics, and learned to talk about him, learned to be appropriately imperialist in his rhetoric. I mean, there was a shift. And the thing is, it's not just the government. It's the fact that actually the government is a fucking mediator of the power of the capitalist class. It's there to deal with the fact that there are conflicts both amongst capitalists, amongst the people who control the things we need to survive, and between capitalists and workers, the people who make the stuff that everybody needs to survive. And so the thing is, you can get into politics. You get into like electoral politics, and let's say you get elected. Well, the thing is, that does not suddenly mean, let's say a communist gets elected. That doesn't mean that suddenly the country's communist, because you still have all these capitalists who control everything. And they're going to use that power to do everything they can to undermine anything moving in that direction. I mean, we've seen that in Venezuela. We've seen that with Allende in Chile. We've seen that in so many different places. I mean, we saw a version of that simply with fucking centrist social democrat Jeremy Corbyn getting elected leader of the Labour Party and the massive ruling class freakout that happened in response to that. Yeah, my first protest was the day without the Pentagon in 99, or 98 actually. Outside the US Ministry of Defense. But yeah, so the thing he's about to try to do a cursed liberal take on, I would have to say is not strictly wrong, although I would put it differently.
And they will have no ability to pull the Overton window of American politics in anywhere too good or anywhere too bad, right?
Well, see, that doesn't necessarily follow. Because it isn't that there isn't an equal objection on the part of the ruling class to people moving, too far to the left and too far to the right. That's never considered an equal, value neutral distinction. Moving to the right is always more acceptable to capitalists because moving to the right means they get more power.
It can't happen here. Right? Like, there couldn't be a Nazi take. Like, if a bunch of Nazis decide they want to try to take over America, they couldn't do it because there's just such a system of checks and balances in
okay, this is the way he's going.
place. There's just so many hard rules and just guys with gavels in the way. It just, pieces of paper that say you can't do this or that. That it just really seems like we can rest easy knowing it's just not possible for it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be unprecedented, surely, for a bunch of white supremacist genocidal fucks to be in charge of the U.S. government. Oh, wait, sorry. I seem to be getting a call from the first 150 years of U.S. history.
To happen here, But it can. Those pieces of paper at the end of the day really don't mean shit. Like,
okay, he's not wrong here.
Only mean shit because people with lots of money, guns, and resources believe in those pieces of paper.
Fucking hell. What happened? Who made fucking Xanderhall sit down and read a book? I was not expecting him to actually take this in the direction that he just took it, because he's never shown any sign of having anything more than a superficial interest in any of this stuff. Yeah, Fritz Ebert. And now there's the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, which played a major role in drafting the new old Chilean constitution, the one that lost at the referendum, and basically made sure that it was, slightly progressive neoliberalism. Well, I mean, they not only have the luxury of being allowed to be ignorant, they're making money being ignorant. Although here, I mean, what he just said is actually more or less right. I mean, the only reason the law matters is if if it suits the ruling class for the law to matter. That's true. I mean, you can see there are plenty of historical examples. Yeah, the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung are a definite improvement. Although any supporter of Palestinian rights, they will eventually kick into the Landwehrkanal. I mean, oh well, yeah, if they would be able to watch them without immediately starting a fucking hate mob.
If people who are able to come along and take over the guns, money, and resources, they can burn that piece of paper.
Or if the people who control those guns, money, and resources, see, that's not how. Okay, I knew it couldn't last because that's not how fascism works. Fascism isn't some new people take over the means of production and the guns. Fascism is the people who already control the means of production say, this liberalism is making us a little bit nervous at the moment. It seems like maybe there might be some chance that our power might get challenged a bit. We'd really like you to dial that back a bit. Let's maybe have a little more iron fist and a little bit less open debate for a while. And so it's not Fondazione Amadeo Bordiga. Oh, yeah. Yeah, are they any good? I've never heard of them. I mean, I've heard of Bordiga, of course.
It doesn't mean shit. They can kill the people with the gavels and the strict walls of supposed regimentation that is our bureaucratic government.
What's remarkable is that they rarely have to. If you look at the examples, like Germany, they didn't really have to kick a whole lot of judges out when the Nazis took over because the judges were actually celebrating that. The judges paved the way. The judges are why the Nazis hardly ever did any kind of hard time, no matter how many people they murdered in the Weimar Republic. I'm not familiar with Bruno Maffi.
That they assume keeps radicalism from having any real impact. No, they can't sandblast.
This is again, the problem is this idea that, see, he's basically accepting this notion of extremism, except he's saying radicalism. But the thing is, even though there's all this money, all sorts of prominent people love to support the whole horseshoe theory thing and talk about extremism and all this bullshit. The reality is, nobody seriously treats those two things as interchangeable. Nobody in power instinctively, even if they haven't really given it a whole lot of, politological thought, sees communists gaining power as the same as fascists gaining power, because one wants to preserve their power and the other wants to get rid of it.
For me, of course not. Of course it can't happen here. Regardless, though, it almost did on January 6th. It failed, but they tried.
I think almost is a little bit, is a bit of an exaggeration. Because the thing, I mean, I would say almost if there were some significant segment of the military who immediately joined up with them. I mean, they tried to get something going in, at the state level as well. I mean, that was the thing. You don't hear it mentioned as much since then. But there was this whole effort to try to get, to take over state houses as well. And that mostly fizzled out. Not a whole lot happened there. And the only way, if the military or the cops would actually have to be more completely behind them, at the very least, in order for it to be almost. The cops kind of let them go in there. And then eventually the cops got new orders and they were taken out.
And that's what's important. They're trying. It's possible. It can happen if they try enough and the right conditions are met, and they're trying. With that said, I want you guys to know that and have that information in mind when we watch this speech given, I don't even fucking know where. What event was this? I'm sure some of you in chat know. This is the Hitler's National Hall for for Jewish exposing, I guess, is the name of this location. Where
That was so clever there. It's the New York Young Republican Club. Yuck.
where they got together, New York Young Republicans, same thing. No need to repeat what I said, chat. Yeah, so that's where she's speaking, and let's go ahead and hear what she has to say about January 6th.
And I really appreciate Dawn talking about Hunter Biden's laptop. I have a copy of it in my office, and I don't want to see one nasty page of what he likes to do in the bedroom.
Then why do you have a copy of it in your office? I mean, okay, she's doing a Caleb Maupin on Andrew Tate on the Hunter Biden laptop. I don't want to know anything about the Hunter Biden laptop. I've got a copy. People sent me a copy. I got a copy right here. I don't know about it. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it 10 minutes now.
Did she just admit that she's looked at Hunter Biden's cock? She's just admitted that she personally... So, of course this is a lie, but for the sake of lying, she is telling the world that she... At least she's telling me she has Hunter Biden's laptop and looks at his cock. Thank you, MTG. Very cool.
And I don't care how much drugs he snorted or shot up or whatever he did, but I will tell you something I find really interesting is his bank accounts.
Remember, by the way...
I mean, what would be interesting about them? I mean, it's just more rich fucks with financial conflicts of interest. That's kind of... I love how, like, you hear this, the Republicans do it with, like, Hunter Biden. The Democrats did it with the fucking Donald Trump tax returns that they were so obsessed over. And the thing is, it's just the same picture. It's rich people with financial conflicts of interest who are fucking feathering their nests in Washington, taking a break between corporate appointments. That's just kind of how the fucking whole government works. That's not some thing you can actually score on the other side with.
Scorn towards the left is a virtue among the right.
Yeah, but she wasn't expressing scorn towards the left. Like, what? We're talking about fucking Hunter Biden.
Okay? The right doesn't necessarily have a strong, cohesive, moral set of political positions or...
Except they do have a few. They are... Well, among other things, they want to protect traditional power centers. They want to ensure that power concentrations currently existing are protected for the most part. That's the main thing.
Beliefs. They have enemies. What is good to them is what is bad for the left or minorities.
See, this is where we run awry. Because the thing is, you have to distinguish between fascist propaganda, which is very much as he's describing it, and fascist ideology and right-wing ideology generally. And those are two different things. There's how they get their base excited, and there's what principles they consider non-negotiable. Those are two different things. They're much more flexible about, the specific, window dressing, which is a bit of a trivializing way of saying, inciting fucking genocide. But yeah. Fuck, where's my window? Ah, there we go.
That is why they speak with such scorn towards their enemy.
Who's Bruno Maffi?
When you watch a left-wing political figure talk about the right, they don't talk about the right in the same way the right talks about the left, right? When the right talks about the left, they're bad people, they're sheeple, they're to be mocked and ridiculed. But
what, you don't think? Who are you listening to? Who doesn't mock and ridicule the? Like, you're fucking mocking and ridiculing MTG right now. Well, you're not the left, Sam. That's right. That Xander Hall isn't the left. He's like a centrist liberal dickhead.
When like Biden goes on stage to talk about Republicans, it's...
I thought we were talking about the left. Now you're talking about Biden, a guy whose closest relationships for the entire interminable half century he spent in Washington before becoming president were the hardline right-wingers, the most right-wing Republicans. This is a guy who worked closely with fucking Jesse Helms and Strom fucking Thurmond. He's the left now.
It's like, they're good people. They're Americans who've been, let us...
That's because you're talking about people who are actually trying to work with them to do right-wing shit.
Stray. It's like, you only really need to look at who's willing to be just upfront. Don't believe people when they tell you who they are. And the right tells you who they are when they take every opportunity to be as cruel and bigoted as possible.
I'm very interested in those, and I cannot wait to serve with Jamie Comer on the Oversight Committee and go after them. Because I'll tell you right now, what it leads to is 10% for the big guy. Okay?
What, 10% for what big guy?
And I think I've introduced like 7 or 8, or I don't know where I'm at now, articles of impeachment on Joe Biden over the past 2 years.
See, this is the same bullshit that Democrats were doing too. And they knew that the impeachment was going nowhere because Republicans were never going to vote to impeach Trump. They weren't going to vote to impeach their own president. The Democrats barely... it doesn't work that way. And they managed to come up with reasons to impeach Trump that completely sidelined all of the actual crimes and atrocities he'd committed in favor of some bullshit nobody actually really cared about. And she knows there's not going to be any that an impeachment is not getting anywhere. They don't have the votes. They don't. That would not work. So, but this is a way to just rile up the base.
She's literally been, like, she's not on any committees, right? Like, she's been kicked off of all of her committees. Like, she's literally disgraced as far as Republicans go. She just kind of has this, like, culty QAnon fan base. Like, this is not a woman who has any actual power in the Republican Party, even. She's, like, especially...
Then, except that here she is addressing the New York Young Republicans Club. She's not been, like, completely blacklisted here.
Especially since the whole, like, switch to DeSantis. She's basically been, like, disgraced, even among many Republicans, believe it or not.
And while I don't want to impeach a president for political reasons, I definitely think Joe Biden should be impeached.
Okay, what are non-political reasons? I mean, I don't think it is possible to have a non-political reason to impeach somebody. The fact that it is a reason for impeaching somebody makes it political.
Not just because of the evidence on his son's laptop, linking them to China and other places.
He should be impeached because of the evidence on his son's laptop linking them to China and other places.
I mean, this is literally the same sort of shit. I mean, all she's doing is just plagiarizing what the Democrats did with Donald Trump in order to pretend like they were doing something other than just voting with him basically all the time.
By the way, the laptop shit is just, there's nothing. There's I've looked into it. Because I was like, okay, there's got to be something, right? There's got to be something, right? It's just Hunter's cock and balls. It's just...
Well, there's some emails that have actually been authenticated, but the thing is, it is still nothing in the sense that it's just the same shit you would find on the hard drives and SSDs of pretty much the entire political class, because all of them have some kind of financial conflict of interest going on. All of them are somehow feathering their nest in one way or another, because that's their fucking job.
It's just Hunter's cock and balls. That's what made it end up getting attention. And then they just started like trying to make up other shit to justify it having attention.
Except that it was getting attention before, like, 2 years ago, more or less. Way before I heard anything about anyone's genitals being on there.
Other than Hunter's cock and balls.
Yeah, say that again. I want to hear that a few more times. Please, say that again.
Hunter Biden. Yeah, like, let's not... These people will literally scream and piss and shit themselves if you get into the Trump family collusion with Russia. So let's, you know, they're very much hypocrites, you know? You go high, they go low.
But he deserves to be impeached. Why? Because our border is under invasion and he doesn't.
Okay, this is just straight up white supremacist shit, but that should not actually surprise us. She's a white supremacist.
He also deserves to be impeached because he's selling out our strategic petroleum reserves, doesn't he?
What is this? What? Okay, so that...
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know what the fuck that's about either. This is the first time I've heard this talking point.
That literally was her getting paid by an oil company. That was the oil company that she's getting paid by talking right there.
I don't really think that the fucking strategic... First of all, the oil companies have no reason to dislike Joe Biden. He has given them some serious gifts. In fact, I mean, I got a thing, you know, some of this Democrat political propaganda that they push into your Facebook feed, where they're talking about how, look, Trump wasn't doing anything to get oil out of the ground, and Biden is breaking oil drilling records. He's the environmental president or some shit. I mean, I don't understand who that was supposed to be a flex for, because I'm not an oil company, and I don't see why I'm supposed to give a shit, why I'm supposed to think this is good anyway. But yeah, I don't really think that the oil companies are particularly annoyed with Joe Biden at the moment. He's done them some solids.
Tapping into draining our oil reserves. Guys, I don't know if you're aware, there is enough, like, fossil fuel oil on Earth for us to harvest quite easily, by the way, through fracking, particularly, that we are not going to run out anytime soon. We export...
Well, yeah, except, of course, fracking... I mean, is he just basically gonna mention fracking without pointing out how absolutely disastrous that shit is for the environment?
A massive amount of oil.
Also, that's not oil, that's fucking gas. That's not the same thing as oil. Gas and oil, they're both hydrocarbons, but they're not the same compound.
The only reason why oil prices are high right now, the only reason why oil prices tend to be so high during Democrat presidencies is because guess what?
I don't even know if they actually tend to be high during Democrat. I remember the biggest peak oil prices before the most recent one. The first time that oil prices really just went through the roof, I remember, was under George W. Bush. Oh, Muffy's been dead since 2003? Yeah, if their head of their foundation has been dead for 20 years, I can see how that might suggest that there's not a whole lot going on with them. Although maybe he's just the eternal chairman.
Oil companies can literally just set the prices to whatever the fuck they want. And guess what? Republican president equals good for them. Democrat president equals
good for them. It also equals good for them. There's like literally nobody who's bad for them has any fucking chance of getting into the White House or of getting into Congress.
It's bad for them. So when there's a Democrat president, the gas prices are higher.
Okay, is that true? Let's see. Okay, have we got a... Okay, so the biggest peak recently... Okay, so it peaked around the time Bush invaded Iraq. Then there was another brief peak in 2008. It kind of went up and down. There's absolutely nothing to what he's saying. They don't just go down. Like, they didn't go down under Trump all that much. They stayed... they remained quite high. They still remained higher than they ever were under George W. Bush. For the entire time under Trump. I mean, fucking oil companies do not have anything to fear from Democrats. Democrats are actually more effective at getting them what they want. Because Democrats don't turn off all don't make all of, like, Europe, all, like, the political classes of Europe have to find some way to pretend to distance themselves. Yeah, the whole 1990s, actually, the prices were quite low. I mean, compared to now. I mean, let me see. Yeah, like 1994. I mean, between 1994 and 2002, the prices went from $1 to... They basically roughly doubled. And then they continued to go up. I mean, during the Bush administration. I mean, what he's saying makes absolutely no sense. I mean, on any level, it's simply not true. Here, let me show you the graph I'm looking at. Pull that up, reopen close tab, so you can see. Here we are. This is the U.S. Energy Information Administration official source. Retail, okay. U.S. all grades, all formulations, retail gasoline prices. So, let me just make sure, how's the crop? Yeah, so the 1990s, it was like around a little over $1 a gallon. And then it started going up, actually, right around when Bush came in. Continued going up with so a few valleys, but each peak was higher than the last up until Obama. Okay, up until 2008. Then it actually dropped. This is in December 2008, right before Obama was going to come into office. And it, like, kind of goes up. I mean, it has never gone back down to below Bush. And it was actually going up a lot of the time during Trump's time in office. Look, I mean, there was like a little drop here in 2016, and then it just keeps going up, and then it drops. It's peaks. It's fucking swings and roundabouts. This is nonsense analysis what he's giving us here. I don't know why this should shock anyone. Yeah, at some point, the oil crisis was kind of important to oil companies because they kind of realized that shit going on in the Middle East could be used as a justification to scare up domestic oil prices. That they could use the fact that shit was going down in the Middle East, which isn't even where most petrol for domestic consumption in North America comes from. I mean, we get most of ours from the Atlantic Basin, we get it from Canada. But that doesn't stop the companies selling it here using things going on in the Middle East as an excuse to drive up the prices.
That's just how it is. That's not like because of any good reason. It's just because we don't like that there's a Democrat in office. So we're
okay. We've just established. I don't know. Did you get to see the graph, Phoenix? I mean, because what he's saying is nonsense. It's nonsense on so many different levels. The prices do not start, go up every time there's a Democrat and go down every time there's a Republican. That's simply not what's happened. And also, oil companies don't have any reason to dislike the Democrats. The Democrats have done all sorts of great things for them. I mean, look at the fucking so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which is a big giveaway to the oil companies.
Punish the entire American population who drives or requires gas. This sounds like a conspiracy. It's not. This is...
No, it's just bullshit. I mean, it's just completely wrong what he's saying.
Literally public. Wait, you guys think this is a conspiracy theory? Wait,
Why didn't you fucking look it up like I just did? It took me all of 5 seconds.
wait, holy shit. Here's PolitiFact. Across the country, gas prices are climbing to...
I did not cut this. I did not like view this in advance. I basically never do that. If he's just looked that up, I didn't time that for this to happen.
record-setting numbers, putting consumers in a bit of a pinch when it comes to their daily commute. As prices have crept up, politicians have been quick to point fingers. Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, in a March 18th, 2022 tweet about the burden the high prices were placing on truck drivers, blamed the astronomical...
This isn't even about... Yeah, PolitiFact is just basically DNC propaganda to begin with. But the thing is... I mean, this doesn't even address the question. If you want to actually back up his assertion that prices go up when there's a Republican in office, down when there's a Democrat in office, you would have to do what I just did and look up U.S. gas prices over time. And the U.S. Energy Information Administration's got a nice little graph going back to the 1990s. Probably if you play around with it, you can get it going back further than that. And what it says is, what he's saying is nonsense. Yeah, and Haku, I mean, there are no real... The only party we have is the Democrats and the Republicans. It is a de facto one-party state. That was Gore Vidal, wasn't it, Mask? Am I remembering that, or was that Vonnegut?
gas prices on the Democrats' war on fossil fuels. But is that true?
No, it's not true, because the Democrats aren't having a war against fossil fuels. The Democrats, in fact, are like having an orgy with fossil fuels.
Policies instituted by Democrats in recent years caused gas prices to skyrocket? Is there
Studs Terkel? Oh, Julius, yeah.
another reason? Let's take a look. Coronavirus, Russian invasion of Ukraine playing major role in prices. That's valid reasons that are happening right now.
Oh, except those aren't valid reasons. Those do not affect the sources of the fuel that people are getting in when they fuel up their cars in this country, because that's not where we get the fucking oil here. That's not where we get the stuff for domestic consumption. When you talk about oil in Ukraine, when you talk about oil in Russia, in the Middle East, what you're talking about is the oil that Asia, Europe, and Africa depend on.
But there have been other factors as well. One of the biggest, the coronavirus pandemic. The report notes that during the early months of the pandemic, when people were largely confined to their homes in hopes of limiting the spread of the virus, gas prices plummeted. There was more gasoline available than consumers.
And not just in hopes of limiting the spread of the virus, incidentally. It actually did successfully limit the spread of the virus, as it has in fact done every place that that this has been done in a consistent and sensible way.
Looking to buy it, so producers of gasoline started decreasing output. As those restrictions have loosened and life has returned to normal, demand for gas has gone up, the report said, with demand now outpacing the limited supply of gas. That's not an issue anymore. It's literally been years now.
Well, no, because the thing is, the oil companies, what they're trying to do always is find an excuse to lower production, because lower production means higher prices for them. So just because, fucking the brief period in which like the US government was willing to acknowledge that there's a pandemic going on ended a long time ago, that doesn't mean that the production has gone up necessarily. Yeah, they did. I remember that.
Supply and demand are largely out of Biden's control, but the administration hasn't exactly been sending positive signals to the oil and gas industry by pushing for reduced emissions and other forms of cleaner energy.
Yeah, except they're not pushing for reduced emissions. He's not doing that at all. In fact, I mean, you look at the fucking so-called Inflation Reduction Act, which we're supposed to accept as part of the way towards maybe almost, like, not totally flipping off the IPCC. What you find is that for every fucking renewable power installation that is approved, there has to be an equivalent amount of new oil drilling approved as well. There is no reason the oil companies would be annoyed with Joe Biden. The man is a climate disaster.
The Times report noted they're not exactly sending positive signals to oil companies. Okay.
What do they need as a positive signal then? I mean, I don't understand. Like, what exactly? I mean, we have like record fucking oil extraction going on right now.
But the Times article said the stance has played only a very, 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 very small role in pushing gas prices up. Another factor linked...
Yeah, because it's not actually... Because it's bullshit. There is no meaningful stance. In terms of actual policy, Biden is giving the oil companies everything they could possibly dream of, as he has done for basically his entire time in Washington.
To rising gas prices, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And we get our ruling. Johnson claimed the astronomical gas prices are due to the Democrats' war on fossil fuels. He noted, among other things, halting subsidies for oil companies, blah, 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 blah. Keystone Pipeline.
None of those things are true.
Experts say those things could have had a small impact, but it's more likely the effect of the coronavirus pandemic on the supply and demand for oil and Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the subsequent sanctions are having a much larger impact. We rate this claim mostly false, meaning the statement contains an element of truth but ignores critical facts that would give a different impression.
Well, yeah, first of all, it's that their analysis is just so fucking out there. Because what goes on in Ukraine does not affect the supply of oil that is used to make the fuel here. Different supply. Different sources. And also, I mean, it's interesting, he's not going to look up, it looks like, he's not going to look up how how fuel prices in this country have developed over time, just to fact check his claim about the changes over the administrations. Oh, so people are actually starting to say it that way? I hate it. People need to stop doing that. We have a way of saying that already. It was a good way of saying that.
There's nothing about Democrats being in office that makes... that literally makes the oil prices go up. They don't...
Yeah, and literally that isn't a thing that happens.
Do things that make the oil prices go up. They just...
yeah, exactly. They don't do the things that would make that they could do that would make the oil prices potentially go up are things that would actually annoy the oil companies. And they're not doing those things. They don't do those things.
There's just always an excuse. There's always an excuse. The supply and demand issue, obviously with COVID, there was a lot less demand for gas, and that's why it was so cheap. They had to, lower the price. However, because they wanted to make money. However, when they raise the price on oil or on gas, when they raise the price, it's not because there isn't enough. There's not a lack of oil in the reserves,
That's all of
Well, with Kiev, I mean, the thing is, there are two major languages spoken in the town. And so there are two different ways of pronouncing it. I mean, it's the same with all the place names in Ukraine, really. You have, I mean, roughly just under half the population is a Russian. Yeah, this is true. It is not pronounced Kiev. That is people not hearing a very soft second syllable. Kiev. Kiev.
Or in the earth.
Oil doesn't belong to China, but that's the top buyer. Joe Biden loves to do business with China.
Well, Wall Street likes to do business with China. Guess what? China is the low-wage manufacturing platform for basically every U.S. company that is involved in, making stuff. Doing business with China is something that basically every major company actually does. I mean, so of course the U.S. is going to have this sort of hypocritical relationship where they'll be like, ooh, that's appalling, China's doing human rights shit again, at the same time as they're never going to do anything about it, because sanctioning China would be sanctioning Wall Street. Yeah, I mean, the Ukrainian government, they're encouraging a lot of shit. Let's just put it that way. And with that, it is time for me to wrap up for this week. And I'd just like to remind everybody that I am now officially crowdfunding. Let me switch back. Where the hell? I have to remember where all my fucking windows are. That I am now fundraising to do the introduction of Alexandra Kalantai's социальные основы женского вопроса, social basis of the female question. I'm looking to raise $684.40. That covers my costs at 10 cents a word. And once I have that raised, I can get the thing done very quickly. It's 6,844 words. Other than that, if you enjoy the stream, please consider paying for the stream. More generally, like with the tip command, which allows you to circumvent Bezos, and it helps me pay my bills and helps me do more stuff. Also, keep an eye out on the YouTube channel for the first installment of my video series on the NSU murders and state collusion between the state and neo-Nazi groups in Germany. Yeah, I mean, and spread the link around. Spread that Patreon link around too. I think the more people see it, the better chance we have. Because I mean, pretty much, I would say people we know are kind of the demographic for interest in causing a new Kalantai book to drop. But okay, it is time for me to turn back into a seagull. Have a good night, unless you're Marjorie Taylor Greene or Xander Hall, amongst other people.